Hi, and welcome back to the Crash and Burn podcast. This is our third in the series. We're bringing back people who've been part of Crash and Burn before in the past. We are bringing in the this year's players. Right now, we are online with Liz Miele. Hello, Liz.
Hi.
And for those of you who just tuning into the podcast because you're a fan of Liz and have no idea what the Crash and Burn is, it's myself. I've invited three other comics to come into Acme Comedy Company here in Minneapolis, and we're going to, all four of us are going to try to write 20 new minutes each in just the short span of 5 shows, or 7 shows over 5 days. And it'll be October 3rd through 7th. And you excited, Liz?
I genuinely am, and the timing worked out perfectly because I record my next special September 16th. My hour's done, so I'm actually already starting to write what my next hour is going to be, and I love writing new material, and it's always stressful when you, pretty much burn an hour to, start up again. So the fact that I'll probably already have a new 15 minutes, and then for this I'll write another 20 minutes, the fact that I write a new hour every year already pisses off my friends, but if I can piss them off quicker, it makes my fans happy, my friends angry. I'm very excited.
I have friends my age who haven't written a new 15 minutes in 30 years. So
I just find that so depressing, man. I definitely come from the school of George Carlin where it's just turn it over. But I don't turn it over for any other reason other than I get bored and I like the challenge of new ideas. And I'm just kind of like a crazy space cadet that's always thinking about different things and I just want to talk about it. So it's I think of it, I start to polish it, I try to figure it out. Once it starts working, I'm excited for a couple of weeks. But then once I know it works, it's kind of, I'm not saying it's not fun, but eventually it's I know it works, and I like the puzzle of this career is what I like.
So how do you write? Are you actually a notebook comic, or are you riffing on stage comic?
So I'm definitely more of the first, but I do both. So basically it starts out, even today, I wrote something in my phone. Then and that's usually just kind of because I'm on the go and my brain is crazy. So it's I write a little idea on my phone, just the bare minimum. Then I'll be on the subway going to a gig and I'll flesh it out a little bit. I'll start to give it a beginning, middle, and end. And I'll start to figure out what is this really about. Then I'll try it and I'll record it when I try it. And then the recording will let me remember, okay, that line got a laugh. That got nothing, but maybe it got nothing because it needs to be moved over there. And if I say it earlier, it might be stronger. So then on stage, I listen to and then also I don't have a good memory, so I'm not always saying it perfectly or the way I should have. So then it's a bit of riffing on stage, editing on paper, and then I go back again. And so it's a little bit of riffing on stage, what I edited on paper. And so the rest of it becomes 50% of what just came out of my ass while I was on stage and 50% of listening to it, seeing what works, and making it a little bit tighter. And I just kind of do that over and over again until it's what I believe is finished.
Do you actually write it out long form after you've done it on stage the first couple times, or is it?
I write it out long form. I write it out long form 8 times because I'm dyslexic. I'm very visual, and like I said, I have this bad memory. So I write it out, then I perform it, then I transcribe what I performed, then I edit on paper, and then I take that edited on paper, I say it, then I listen to the new recording, I transcribe it again. My notebook is the same joke tweaked over the span of a couple of weeks, probably anywhere from 5 to 8 times.
Huh. Well,
especially if it's a long joke. I have my new hour, I have an 11-minute story that's almost 4 parts, and I had to break it up into 4 parts just to do it. And that is that was one of the hardest things I ever wrote, and I had to visually see it written out.
And that's the special that's coming out, the one that you record September 16th.
In September, correct? Yeah.
Do you have a title for it? Working title?
Sorry, my cats are nuts. The title will be Murder Sheets, which is actually a 5-minute joke in the beginning of my set or my hour.
And when is that going to be released?
I don't know yet. Things are such a mess because I was recording it in September with the hopes of, I think regardless of the strike, I was thinking it was going to come out early next year. But now with the strike, you can't sell anything with the strike. So until we figure out what's happening with the strike. And, my last couple of hours are on YouTube. I'm proud of my YouTube specials. I have no problem with putting this on YouTube. But I was in the hopes that I could maybe get some eyes on this. And now that kind of got tarnished with the strike. So I think regardless if it's in YouTube or on a network, it's not going to happen until next year.
Huh. That's interesting. How does I wouldn't think that myself, I'm not in SAG or AFTRA or WGA, so the strike means nothing to me. It's which branch are you?
I'm not in either. I'm not actually in either. But you don't want to be a scab, and B, you are a writer. When you write something, like if I sold it, I would automatically be in both of them, both the Writers Guild and SAG, because I'm on the cusp. I've done enough TV credits and stuff like that I'm on the cusp of it. So as soon as I do my next TV thing, I will have to be a part of them. So the fact that if I sold something, it would be ruining my future relationship with these unions. So you just can't, which really sucks.
Yeah,
and it's fine. I mean, I support the unions. It's
no. I get it. I'm not being critical. Do you have an advisor that is informed you of this, or is this just
manager
comics that you work with?
Manager? No. My manager and agent. Yeah.
Said don't release it until the strike's over. No.
It's not even release it, because the truth of the matter is if the strike is still happening during the holidays, I will just put it on YouTube. I'm not going to wait.
Oh, okay. Is it okay? It's okay to film it though. Is that?
Yeah, of course, because it's my property. Yeah, and it's about the writers union
it's the sale. It's the
yes,
sale. So if you give it away for free, that's no big deal.
On the internet, yeah. The same way that I'm able to perform stand-up during this time.
Right. I heard that if you're actually at the union, that you're not supposed to tour. That you're not. Do you know anything about that?
That would be wild, because every single writer and actor is going right back to stand-up. So I don't think anybody. And, I don't know if you know Ramon Rivez. Do you know him? He's a comic based out of Cleveland. He's brilliant. He's great. But he posted something that, hit the nail on the head. He goes, I support Writers Guild. I support, the SAG AFTRA. But also keep in mind, all these people are going to stand up to survive. That's great. I support it. But comedians have never been unionized, and we haven't had a pay raise since the 80s, and we've actually lost more money because most clubs aren't putting up features. They're paying them so under rate. Some of them are paying even worse than the 80s, and it's unlivable to be a feature. It's shitty to be a headliner if you don't have a fan base. He goes, I'm all for everybody unionizing and things getting better, but it's funny that people are surviving off a art form that has never been respected and never been taken care of. And I was like, fuck yeah. I completely agree.
Yeah, I can verify that. I've been here since the 80s, and I'm making the exact same money headlining what I used to make to MC. That's not counting.
Stupid.
That's not counting for inflation.
Yeah, no, it's really bad. And I'm doing all right, but the clubs pay my features so shitty that I have to compensate. Out of my own money, I have to make sure, and that's just because I believe at the very least a feature should be making $150 a show. Most of them don't. So I make sure my features get at the very least $150 a show, but they should be making more than $150 a show. But I can't afford to be doing that depending on what clubs I'm working at. So it's just to me, and they should be being put up in hotels. If it's a really close girlfriend, we'll share a hotel. There's all these things that I'm overcompensating for what the clubs should be. I mean, all of it is madness to me.
You pay your features $150 plus hotel. Can I feature for you?
I know, right? And I think that's bare minimum. That's bare minimum. It should be way better. It's awful that it's better, and it's shooting. Clubs are shooting themselves in the foot, because where do you think these headliners are coming from? They come from being a feature and getting on the road and getting better. But if you don't give features the ability to tour and get better, you have this big gap, just like we have with the economy, where you have billionaires and you have poor people, and there's no middle class. We are not helping the features. And I spent my whole life struggling and paying my rent, $50 at a time, and I was fortunate that I had people that compensated for shitty bookers as well. It shouldn't be on the headliner to support the feature when the clubs could easily pay the feature with 2 people showing up to a show.
Sure, sure. I've always thought that the clubs treated us like meatballs on the happy hour buffet.
Yes.
We're just there to bring people in to drink, and that's
yeah. And it's sad because we're in a comedy boom and people like what we do. I get that on a larger scale nobody thinks comedy is an art form, but there are comedy fans that are paying money and coming out and love what we do, and it's sad that you have to be famous and doing theaters to be able to make a living yourself and to compensate the people that you believe are good and going to be the next generation of comedy. And there's no think of featuring like college. Like there's no affordable college.
Yeah, well, that's because you can borrow as much as you need. There's no ceiling on the amount of money that a college can charge, and I think that's because of the loans. Is that
yeah.
But anyway, we're getting off track. Yes, comedy is indeed an art form, and that Crash and Burn celebrates that. It's also what we do. It's one of the most enjoyable things about the Crash and Burn series is that we actually get together and we write. Do you write alone, or do you ever get with a group and write?
I would say like 85% of the time I write alone. I'll write with like another comic. There's a couple of friends, both a buddy of mine that lives in the neighborhood as well as like really close girlfriends of mine, that I'll be like, hey, I'm stuck on this, like this part's working, but this part isn't. Do you have any ideas? Or, sometimes they'll give me a tag. I would say the best writing partner is somebody that asks a question you're not asking yourself. So I don't need somebody to go give me a tag or, hey, this is a really funny line, because a lot of times everybody's voice is really different and it's really hard to write in other people's voices, especially when you really don't know them. My girlfriends and my friends that I've like started comedy with know my voice, or like my friend Adrian is really dark and I'm kind of middle dark. So I'll be like, I can't use this, but you can use this. And I love writing in her voice. But I'll have a lot of guys come up and they'll say something super dirty. And I'm like, you're not even listening to my act. I'm not dirty. So don't give me a dirty tag, because if you were even paying attention, that's not my voice. So it's not about being funny. It's about being funny and adding to this joke that is something I would say. And I think that's where the big difficulty it is to write with others. So I'm fortunate that I have some people that know my voice and I can bounce ideas off of. But the best writing sessions I've ever had is where I'm like, hey, I can't figure out where to turn this or take this, or I know it's not done, but this isn't working, but this is. And like, I remember I was working on this joke. It's from like 2 different hours I did ago. And it was about, was coming home late at night on the subway, and I had my feet up on the chair, and a cop gets on the train, kicks my feet and says, get your feet down. And I'm filled with rage, because that's not one of the unspoken rules of the subway train. And so that's like how I started the joke. Like, and you know what I mean? And I talk about like, he's acting like this is like my mom's living room, but it's a fucking subway. And so I was stuck, and I was telling this to my friend Adrian, and she goes, well, what are the rules of the subway train? And it like clicked. I was like, don't buy candy from strangers, don't listen to loud music, and don't pee on the train. But we all pee on the train. There's, you know what I mean? There's no bathrooms, and nothing ever runs on time. So then I opened up the whole thing. Like, so it literally was like just a premise with rage, and then she opened it up so I could start being kind of silly, and that silliness opened it up, and it's now this 2.5 minute joke, and it's one of my favorite jokes from I think my first or second hour, I can't remember. But I remember that aha moment. She just asked a question, a very simple question that I just, for some reason, even though it was right in front of me, I couldn't ask it. So what are the unspoken rules of the subway train? What a great, silly premise. And then you can be, and because they have these little signs, like they're little symbols. And it is, don't buy candy from strangers, don't listen to loud music. And then the third one, of course, is silly. Because everybody is gross. Like there's poop on the train. There's rats and poop on the train.
So you're talking about Adrian Appalucci, is that correct?
Yeah, sorry. Adrian Appalucci is one of my best friends, the funniest person in the world.
Yeah, I believe it was her that recommended. She did it. She was here. Was here with us. She did Crash and Burn 2 years ago, and I believe it was on your recommendation that I looked you up. So.
Yeah, no, she's an angel and the funniest person I know.
Yeah, yeah, I tend to agree with that. It's
Yeah.
we had a very fun week with her. Um, One thing we do exactly that, and yeah, sometimes it is that. That's more after the show is when we do the asking the questions and that, and then during the day we get together as well, and we talk about tags and workshop things like I have 1 and 2, I don't have number 3 rule
Yeah.
in the subway. But Thursday night we actually invite the audience to sit on the writing session. You okay with that? If you're not, we won't do it.
Yeah, of course. I'm not
And
going to
that's
take any of their advice.
Well, it's kind of interesting to hear how they see the jokes, because ultimately,
It's true.
you go to an open mic night and it's just comedians trying to crack each other up, and
And it's interesting too because I've had it where I find out from like my sister or something that I thought the joke, this is why I wrote this joke, and she goes, oh, I interpreted it completely differently. And I think good writing, you're not going to get everybody has different life experiences, everybody has different things that they think of and have happened to them and raised them and blah blah blah, but the goal is that you write it well enough that even if people don't agree with you, they understand how you got there. They know what you're saying. And so if you're in a place where some person's thinking, oh, I thought you meant this, and the other person's going, I thought you meant that, that joke is not done. And that it shouldn't have that wide of a range that people could misinterpret it. I don't think of it like literature in high school where they're like, the birds symbolize the freedom of his virginity when he was thinking about, and you're just like, what? It's birds. What? How are we interpreting bird? Like, I want one interpretation, and if I write it well enough, whether you like it or not, you at least know this is what this is about. And I think that's where you kind of find that out from laughs, if they think it's funny or not. But sometimes I've had audience members come up and be like, oh, I didn't think that at all. And it really does kind of get you to go, oh, I have to at least put a line in there so people know what I'm saying.
That's an interesting way to look at it. That's that's the way when it becomes an art form, and it's probably a good thing that comedy isn't entirely an art form, because that's exactly what it said. The feet on the subway on the train represents
and you're
a
like, what?
childhood crisis that she may have had, and
you're like, no,
the father figure.
It feels comfortable to have my feet up.
Yeah.
And this is a poop train. This train is filled with poop. There's nothing on my shoes that's worse than what's already on that seat.
So so you travel on the train a lot, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have a car here, but it's so hard to park that I only use my car to leave the city. But I'm very fortunate. My new apartment is I have every single train pretty close to me. But it's how you run around from spot to spot here, but also I like writing on the train. I like reading on the train. I like kind of organizing my to-do list and shit on the train. I utilize the train, especially when I lived really deep into Brooklyn. It took 45 minutes to get to most of the clubs. Now it takes about 20 minutes, but I still utilize that time, and it's almost like a little moving office. It's like a way for it to be like my work time.
Yeah, you don't have to look at the road.
Yeah.
It's an advantage. So what do you got coming up? What's be in between now and Crash and Burn? You got the special September 16th.
Yeah, so I'm going on tour. Yeah, so I'm going on tour. I'm doing the Lucille Ball Festival this week, as well as I have 2 shows in Boston that just sold out, and then home for like a week, and then I go on tour on the West Coast. So my friend Maria Shahada, she's a London comic. She's coming with me, opening for all these shows. And we used to have a podcast together, so we have a lot of like mutual podcast fans, which I'm excited about. But I'm just basically polishing the hour. She's somebody that I'll be like, hey, if you have a tag or any notes, like, let's punch this up in the last month of this. So she's like a perfect person to open for it and just travel the road with. She's my favorite person. We started together. So do that for a couple of weeks, come home, do a couple more gigs, and then yes, I'll tape my hour September 16th, and then breathe hopefully for a week, and then I have a little bit of touring, but mostly the summer's been slow on purpose just to recalibrate, and then the holidays are kind of slow for me. But I'm actually trying to write a book. I wrote a script that nothing is happening with because of the strikes, so I'm trying to actually turn that script into a book and try to challenge myself to write differently. So honestly, I'm doing a lot of, it's a historical fiction script and book, so I'm doing a lot of research, and I went to school for writing, this kind of writing, so I'm trying to like remember my education, but I like to keep busy, and I like to expand my writing styles, and that's my favorite thing to do.
So it's a screenplay now that you're turning into a book, or is it still just?
Yeah. Yeah, so the
Oh,
screenplay is done, but there's nothing I can do with it right now. So I'm like,
right.
how do I continue to flesh out this idea and maybe challenge myself? Even if I don't finish, I'll at least know that world and what would happen post the pilot by doing this.
Uh-huh. Is it a pilot, or is it a series, or is it a feature?
What I wrote is a pilot, but what the book will end up being, if I finish the book, it would be what would be like probably season 1 and season 2 if it ever got picked up.
Right, or book 1, and
Book one in a series. I now write a series of books.
That's yeah. Once you get them hooked, man.
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
J.K. Rowling can tell you about that.
Yeah, I'm in. Let's make that money.
And where's the special going to be taped?
The Bell House in Brooklyn. So it's my buddy. I don't know if you know Hurry Kundabolu. He taped his special there last year, and I opened for his special taping, and I just loved it. It's just and I've performed at that venue before. It's a great venue, and it's like the perfect size. I think sold out is like 250, and it's both like a good big stage, but also intimate, and yeah, I'm really excited.
Oh, that's cool. And then if you got the production and directors all hired, they can, well, they're probably, you can. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, yes, I have everything. So, the same guy that's edited all my specials actually is a production company too, so I finally hired him to do everything. And I even asked him kind of skittishly, I was like, hey, would you also want to produce it? He's like, I've been waiting for you to ask me. So I'm excited for him to be part of everything. And he said the edit will be faster because he'll be producing it. So my producer and editor are already done. My buddy Shafi Hussein, great comic, he opens for me a lot. He's going to be opening. Everything's kind of set up. I have a set design person that makes kind of cute sets. This has a little bit of magic. I know that sounds crazy, but I have a joke about my best friend who's a magician, so we have a little bit of magic tied in for this long 11-minute story that I'm closing on. So this is also kind of like a more high-end special than I've done before, because the last one was just in a comedy club. It was straight comedy, and this has a little bit of a set design and a little bit of movie magic, I would say.
Oh, great! We've got that one of the other comics that you're working with is also a magician.
I saw that. Yeah, no, and it's funny because if the comedy world is very intimate and we kind of all know each other, or we're all 1 degree away from each other at the very least, there's 7 magicians. They all know each other. There's 7 of them. So it's kind of exciting that I think he probably will know my friend that I have this joke about.
Oh, good! It's great. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting working with a magician. I haven't talked to him yet. We don't. Everyone wants to know if he's going to be working on a new trick that week.
We'll
Derek
find out,
Hughes
won't we?
is a very funny guy, and he does the open mics just to keep the comedy side of his act up. So
Nice.
I don't know if he's going to be working on a new trick or not.
Yeah.
Be interesting to watch. Where do people go to find more about you, Liz?
Everything is at Liz Miele, so it's Liz and then Miele. My YouTube has 3 free specials on it, as well as I made a travel doc I just did my 10th European tour, and so my best friend from childhood is a videographer, and she traveled with me for 2 weeks, and we made this mini doc called Jet Lagged. So all that's on YouTube, as well as my old podcast with Maria Shahada called Two Non-Doctors, but all my social media is at Liz Miele.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me today. And
yeah, thanks so much. I'm really looking forward to this week. It's really such a cool concept.
Yeah, it's a Crash and Burn, October 3rd through 7th. Please drop by if you're in Minneapolis, and if you're not, book a flight.
Yeah. Get on it.
Thanks a lot, Liz. Have a good day.
Thank you. Appreciate it.